We are going to begin with Tyreek Hill in Miami. The body cam footage of his detainment prior to the Week 1 game has been released. You're seeing some of it right now. And as of now, one officer from the incident has been placed on administrative leave. The Miami-Dade Police Department is conducting an internal investigation. Here's more from Tyreek Hill, who spoke to the media once again about this today.
For me, I feel like I handled myself well in that situation. But obviously, like I said, I can be better. But it's shell shocking, man. It's really crazy to know that, you have officers in this world that would literally do that with body cams on. It's sad. It's really sad. Which brings up another conversation and leads into what would they do if they didn't have body cams, which is even crazier. So it's a lot to unpack, man. It's a lot to unpack. It's a lot we can learn. Like, I think in football, how we get better from things is we watch the tape and we get better from it. And this instance, we should do the same. Like, a lot of people want to critique, a lot of people want to criticize, a lot of people want to do this, but I think this can be a learning tool for everybody. Everybody, civilians, officers around the world, like how to do conduct whenever they pull people over. Like, we all can learn, man. We in this thing together. We live in this thing, like, we on earth together. So the only way we get better is, we hold ourselves accountable and we get better from it. That's how I get better in football, so.
Jeff Darlington has been on this story since it started Sunday morning. Jeff, you were in the media room today as Hill spoke. What was the mood in there?
Well, I would say it was introspective. Tyreek Hill spoke for about 14 minutes, and you saw him mention there that there's a lot to unpack. Well, he did spend those 14 minutes trying to unpack some of this, by the way, on the eve of a very important game against the Bills. But this was absolutely the focus of this news conference. Now, a couple of the things that Tyreek Hill did mention. You heard him say that he could have done better. He did mention that in conversations that he's had since the incident took place, he does believe that he should have let the window down. If you saw the body cam footage, you saw that he was resistant to police when instructed to lower his window, which is ultimately what led to the police opening the door and putting handcuffs on him. He did also say, though, he did not believe that that warranted the behavior of the police officers. And speaking of that behavior, Tyreek Hill did call at the end of the news conference for the firing of the officer who put him in handcuffs and also put Calais Campbell, his teammate, in handcuffs. That officer, Danny Torres, now he also has had attorneys who have called for his immediate reinstatement. That officer has been put on administrative duty and remains on administrative duty as this investigation is ongoing. And I can tell you, as far as the Miami-Dade Police Department is concerned, they've issued a statement that they provided to me that said the department is committed to conducting a thorough, objective investigation into this matter, and we will continue to update the public on the outcome of that process. So certainly, again, a dramatic day here in South Florida, one that is not yet quite focused on football until tomorrow.
Yeah, Jeff, thanks for the latest there, and you will continue to bring it to us as you have since it all happened. Hill, as you said, will be back on the field tomorrow night. The Dolphins hosting the Bills in South Florida, but that Miami offense will be without running back Raheem Mostert. Head coach Mike McDaniel addressed that earlier today.
Thursday night games are probably it probably should be your triggering point, Barry, because like I don't, typically we don't even have when we do have padded practices, we don't even have them till Thursday, because typically after an NFL game, Wednesday, the guys are still working through their ailments from the game previous. So it will there's several guys that will be feeling out and go from there.
Let's get Adam Schefter in here. Shefty, what do we need to know on the injury front in front of this Dolphins-Bills matchup that's coming your way tomorrow?
Well, Laura, the Miami Dolphins already have ruled out running back Raheem Mostert due to a chest injury, and it's possible that he's not just going to miss Thursday night's game, he's going to miss multiple weeks. That is certainly a possibility right now. He has already been ruled out. Devon Achane is questionable after missing 2 or 3 practices this past week with an ankle injury. The Dolphins say that he will be a game-time decision on Thursday night, though he was spotted at practice today. So we'll see if Achane can go for the Dolphins. And then you look at the Buffalo Bills injuries. Taron Johnson is out due to a forearm injury. DeWine Smoot is out due to a toe injury. And they're going to be a little bit shorthanded on the defensive side of the football going into Thursday night's matchup. Thursday night matchups always tough, and already there's some pressure on both these teams who will be a bit shorthanded.
Man, something to keep an eye on for sure as you try to figure out how this game's going to go. Thanks, Adam. You're with us all show. With Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane sharing the backfield last season, Miami had one of the most unstoppable run games. They were tied for the NFL lead in rushing touchdowns, with Mostert having the most of any player. They led the NFL in yards per rush, with Achane topping the list, and they were explosive with 9 rushes of 30 or more yards. Also most in the NFL. Jason, just how much does this news at running back change things in your mind?
It changes it a lot. Raheem Mostert being out is one thing. If they don't have Devon Achane, that changes a lot for them, because you look at their game last year, especially in Week 18, Achane and Wilson both were over 5 yards a carry, and Achane had one hell of a game in the first one where he had over 100 yards rushing. So I look at this where the Buffalo Bills defense, they're going to sit in 2 high safeties for a lot of the afternoon, and they're saying to Tyreek Hill, there will be no peace signs today. You're going to stay in front of us. We're going to let you throw the ball short, and we're going to come up and tackle. Now, no Taron Johnson is a big part of that
huge, right?
as a nickel spot, because he's a linebacker and a DB in their defense. He never comes off the field. They don't do it. They trust him in the run game and also in the pass game. So not having him will play a huge part, because guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle line up all over the field for them. So it's going to be a lot, but they need Achane out there, I believe.
I agree. Achane, at least in Week 1, served as like that third pass-catching threat for this offense. You know, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek are 1-2. And without him on the field, that element of speed and like the underneath stuff is a little bit taken away. I'd be concerned if I was Buffalo off of what happened in Week 1, just the way that they handled some of the speed on the perimeter and how they went about some of their fire zone packages against Arizona. I mean, they motion over the tight end. This is something Miami's going to do. They play action. This is something Miami's going to do. And then they will throw drop-off screens. And I think Buffalo's got to be very careful of just, because you know, J-Mac, as a DB, like stay on top, stay on top, stay on top. Then everybody's running back. And all of a sudden, no one's left behind for the screen game. Wow. Miami threw a ton of screens last week. I also think the leverage of that secondary group with how they're handling some of their middle field open or middle field coverages, because that corner up top, he's going to lose leverage on the back, and that back is going to go for 25 yards down the field. Again, everybody, if you didn't watch the Miami Dolphins play last week, they threw 4 or 5 passes exactly like that to Achane outside of the numbers. And then in that middle field open, remember, 2 safeties pressure when they blitz backers and they drop defensive ends. I don't know how comfortable the ends are getting to their spots. Like, look at Rousseau's covering the same place as essentially the middle linebacker, and that slot is wide open. Yep. And I think last year, if you go back and think of how Buffalo played Miami, it was a ton of 2 shell, but they did some fire zone pressures and stayed in their 2 shell. They got to be really careful doing that, unless they fix where those guys are dropping location-wise.
Yeah, they're still figuring things out. When you watched that game a week ago, like the early versions of that defense did not look great, right? They looked very cautious. And obviously they have 2 new safeties.
Yes.
Taron Johnson going down. That creates an opportunity in the middle of the field for Miami. But the issue is they don't really have a legit number 3 option. I think Braxton Berrios played that slot last week. Sure. And he had two targets, I think 2 drops, honestly. And Jonnu Smith, who we know is a real threat from the tight end position, he didn't get much love. Now, what I know about good offensive coordinators, like the really good ones in this league, they game plan for this game, but they also game plan weeks in advance. Yeah. So I think some of those short area passes that you talked about kind of were probably setups for this game. They're going to threaten down the field, and I think they're going to threaten down the middle of the field because that's where the hole is.
I'd also say this, just real quick. Buffalo's defensive ends last week in the second half, that's really how the game won.
Rousseau went off.
Vaughn started to get going.
Yeah.
That's something Miami's front's going to have to deal with.
Well, the other thing, too, is the history with these two teams. And different Bills defenses, right? Matt Milano would have been out there at that point more complete. But the Bills have held the Dolphins to a combined 35 points in their last 3 meetings in Miami.